For much of Q2 2020, Singapore was under circuit breaker measures to stem the spread of COVID-19. Many property launches were postponed, and home viewings in person were not allowed. So the Q2 data came as a surprise to many market watchers. The rise of 0.3% came after earlier flash estimates flagged a 1.1% decline. It also comes after prices had dropped 1% in the first quarter of the year.
The volume of transactions in the months of April and May were very low, and that's due to the circuit breaker measures. And due to the low level of demand in these 2 months, the prices may not be indicative of a more normal market scenario. When circuit breaker measures were lifted from 19 June and sales galleries reopened and property viewings resumed, there could have been a pent-up demand effect that contributed to improvement in prices. So we also saw high-value transactions occurring, especially in core central region, where more units in higher-end projects were sold.
In the second quarter, developers sold 1,713 private homes, excluding executive condominiums. This represents the lowest number of homes transacted in more than 2 years. And that could mean that the Q2 numbers are an anomaly, especially as broader macroeconomic indicators point to tough times ahead.
The only macro indicator that is basically supporting any form of what we call new transactions in the market would be the low interest rate environment. But however, job prospects are not there. No, there's a looming fear of unemployment, as well as the economy. For information, we just had a technical recession, and the other thing was that Q2 we had we registered a double-digit decline. So at the end of the day, I think the macro indicators were a bit negative. Will basically come back and bite back.
Others are more optimistic, citing positive government policies that have weeded out speculators and the low interest rate environment after the US Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to near zero in a bid to stem the turmoil on stock markets.
Developers are pricing attractively and sensitively. So there are multiple reasons why people are compelled to make that decision. And interesting, I must say, even though the July numbers are not out, there are more buyers out there coming to pick up. And I think prices are going to remain relatively stable, but I'm not expecting prices to continue to go up every quarter. I think for the whole of this year, prices may well go down by 1 to 2%. But what is interesting, I must say here, is this: the volume of transactions will rebound with good take-up numbers in July and the moving months.
The resale market, in particular HDB resale, also took a hit, with the number of flats sold in the second quarter plunging 41.9% amid the COVID-19 circuit breaker period. But analysts remain optimistic about the resale market because there has been no steep correction in prices, unlike in past crises. They believe demand will return now that the circuit breaker restrictions have been lifted.
Right? In a crisis like this happens, the sellers take some time to adjust the prices, whereas in the new launch segment, the developers are quick to react because they have seen a past crisis and they also have a lot of inventory to clear. So usually that is the reason why resale lacks a bit of in the private new sale market. The second reason was also during the circuit breaker period, people were not allowed to go into other people's homes to view the project, right? You can buy a new sale project virtually, but you take time to buy a resale project virtually. You don't buy a resale project because you want to check if there is any leaks or if the house is in a good condition.
Property players say that Singaporean buyers have embraced technology and the concept of virtual home viewings. Many even closed transactions during the circuit breaker period, despite not being able to view the properties in person.
The appetite and the new norm of consumers are very much attuned to get more information virtually. We had the first virtual property expo and showcasing almost close to about 30 projects, including resale. And we were ourselves surprised to realize there were more than 10,000 participants came to the various hall to understand a better understanding of the current real estate market situations.
Most market watchers remain cautiously optimistic about the Singapore property market. They all believe that there will be some price corrections in the second half, but are not expecting anything drastic. On the supply side, new launches that were postponed in the first half of the year are expected to go ahead as planned. HDB is planning to launch about 7,800 build-to-order or BTO flats this month in places like Ang Mo Kio, Choa Chu Kang and Tampines. Experts are also keeping an eye on Singapore's unemployment numbers and how developers will price these new launches.
Mainly the job support scheme and the government grants to the SMEs and the economy in general, it's going to taper off. So the big question is that, can economy sustain once the stimulus have been pulled back? Can we still see a recovery once the stimulus has been pulled back?